to the Nasty Metal Production Channel here at YouTube, and welcome back to the last episodes of Metaltober. So, for this second to last Metaltober themed episode, for this I'm going to be talking about 10 rock or metal bands that are named after horror films. Or take their name from horror films. Either way, we're going to be taking a look at 10 bands here. So, without further ado, let's get into number 10. Coming in number 10 now, the only reason I put this band at 10 is because of they seem to be named after, well, the holiday that takes place in the month of October. That's, of course, is Halloween. Of course, we're talking about the Detroit, Michigan heavy metal band. Now, again, whether their name is taken from the holiday or probably taken from the movie Halloween, of course, the classic 1978 film directed by John Carpenter. It still is in a way they still kind of belong on here, but still they are mostly taking their name from the holiday, but still I had to put them on the list. So, get them out of the way. Now, coming in at number 9 is, of course, Bloodlust. Now, again, these guys I think pretty much might have taken their name from the movie Bloodlust, which of course I have on this set right here. It contains a lot of classic old school horror films from like the 1920s to at least 1960s. So, we are looking, of course, at, again, the film Bloodlust, which was released in 1959, which, of course, starred Robert Reed. Again, these guys, of course, might have definitely taken the name from that 1959 film. But, either way, they definitely are named after a horror film. So, again, on the list. Alright. Keeping it going, coming in at number 8 is Blood Feast. Right here, of course, named after, well, I guess it pretty much would be the 1963 film, but which was a Mexican splatter horror film that also spawned a second movie in like 2002. But of course, there was even a movie from like 1972 or so that involved cats that would end up getting released in 1974 in America. But still, either way, it doesn't matter which film, they still are, well, named after a horror film of the same name. So, get on the list, just a good old death thrash band. Of course, there was stuff that, I've been talking about these guys quite a bit. And, of course, they do have that horror theme, of course. So, it really doesn't come as any surprise that they're named after a horror film. Or at least 2 horror films that share the same name. Moving on. So, coming in at number 7, of course, is the British thrash metal band Reanimator, of course, being named after the 1985 science fiction horror film of the same name, and of course spawned a second movie as well. Still, classic film there. So Reanimator definitely belong on the list. I'm trying to not make this. I don't know how much I could add to this other than they're named after the 1985 movie of the same name. So, Reanimator being at number 7. So, of course, coming in at number 6 is Necronomicon. Now, of course, they're not named after them. I don't think there is a movie called Necronomicon. There might be, knowing how typical horror films are. But their name is taken from a movie series that has a book called the Necronomicon. That's, of course, we're talking about the classic Evil Dead movies. Of course, the book pretty much being the reason for why the shit happens in all those movies and why Bruce Campbell has to keep fighting Deadites and has to keep going to the book to try and stop the shit. But the book, of course, appears in all 3 of the movies, being Evil Dead, Evil Dead 2 and Army of Darkness, and of course even featured in the remake and the TV series that is featured on Starz. Still, because of the fact that that their name gets taken from a book that's featured in classic horror film series, belongs in the list. Classic German thrash band though, and of course it's the Apocalyptic Nightmare album, their second album, great album. Alright, so coming in at number 5 is a death metal band called Xenomorph. And they are based out of the United States, of course. Again, being named after something from a horror series. More so science fiction horror anyways. Of course, being named after the creature in Alien. Aliens, Alien 3, Alien Resurrection, fucking Aliens vs. Predator, fucking Prometheus, and... No, don't make me bring up that other movie. Don't make me bring it up. Don't. No. Let's try and just keep in with the classic Alien and Aliens. And probably Alien 3. That's all. Still, being named after a classic creature that is, of course, featured in most of those movies. In all of those movies. Doesn't matter. They're called Xenomorph, and of course, their album cover features, of course, the Xenomorph from the Alien franchise. And that's why they belong on this list. And they only released about one album. Still, they deserve the list. Of course, here, coming in at number 4 is, of course, this Cropsey Maniac. Now, I just mentioned these guys before, I think in my last video I did. Or in my, one of the last videos, that doesn't matter. Of course, they are, named after the killer in the movie The Burning, which is a classic 1981-82 slasher film. Great film, definitely a classic, and of course, Cropsey being the killer. So, and of course, called Cropsey Maniac, and of course, on their album covers, they definitely do feature the killer himself. But, anyways, great stuff there. And of course, let's also even mention that they are a brutal death metal grindcore band. So, coming in at number 3 is, of course, is one of Rob Zombie's bands. As of course is White Zombie, of course being named after the classic film, which of course is also featured in here. As of course is White Zombie from 1932, featuring Bela Lugosi. Still, they definitely, of course, Rob Zombie was, of course, a fan of those horror films anyway, so the fact that he took a name such as White Zombie definitely deserves on the list. Of course, it's kind of predictable, but still, they definitely deserve to mention the video anyways. White Zombie. So, coming in at number 2 is, of course, Witchfinder General. Of course, being named after the classic Vincent Price film that was released in 1968. Of course, even on some of their covers, and I know there might have been some fan-made art, and I know there probably was some bootleg live comps, maybe some best ofs, whatever, that actually did feature some Vincent Price actually from that film, even artwork that depicts, of course, Vincent Price. Still, they're called Witchfinder General, and for those who are probably just fan of Vincent Price movies, would definitely would be almost have an orgasm. I don't know, they just will be kind of like, holy shit, call Witchfinder General. Classic doom metal band from the new wave or British heavy metal movement. Great stuff. Now, finally, probably this is the most predictable, but coming in at number 1 is, of course, Black Sabbath. Be, of course, named after the 1963 film directed by Mario Bava and starred Boris Karloff. Now, their name definitely inspired Tony Iommi, of course. I think it was his nephew or so that was a fan of films or so and thought it'd be cool that there would be a band called Black Sabbath. Now, probably that definitely inspired the band name. However, the song itself was inspired by an incident that happened with Geezer Butler. A paranormal experience, actually, which was due to getting the, what was it? The book or so of fucking, what's that guy's name? Aleister Crowley. Of course, Ozzy gave him that book, and Geezer Butler took it home and apparently had a fucking nightmare. Not intently a nightmare, but of course to his eyes it sure was, because when he woke up and saw some black figures standing over his fucking bed, he quickly fucking raced to his bathroom. And of course he went and told Ozzy, and of course that history was made and made one of the songs. And of course, listening to the track, you can definitely picture that whole incident. Still, that whole paranormal incident definitely probably inspired the song, but of course the 1963 movie definitely probably inspired the name of the band. That would definitely be today one of the most influential and of course one of the very first heavy metal bands. Still, Black Sabbath. So, hope you enjoyed this whole video. If there's a few other metal bands or hard rock bands that you know that had their names taken from horror movies, you can definitely name drop those in the comments section. And if you have definitely some insight on some of these bands that might have taken their name from horror movies on some of these, whether or not they weren't or not, still, they're named after films or holidays. So, anyways, hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you enjoyed this episode. I hope you are enjoying Metaltober. And we are still not done. There's still one more video to come. So, until then, this is Heavy Thrasher saying I'm out. And I'll see you later.